Hello, hello. It's been a while. It's been a while. But welcome back to my channel. For those who have I was gonna say for those who are new here, but I feel like I'm new here. Because it's been a while. The last time that I uploaded a video here was actually before COVID. It was back in 2018 when I was given an update on my diagnosis and just health journey with having achalasia. Which shout out to everyone that has reached out to me from that video here on YouTube and also other platforms because I posted some videos on TikTok, Instagram, just sharing my journey as well. And there's been so many people that reached out asking questions, sharing their story. Just it's been so cool just to connect with so many different other people from other areas all around the world sharing their story of achalasia or even loved ones. Some of them have husbands that were diagnosed or children, or just loved ones or friends that have questions or just want to like share and say, hey, I feel the same way. You're not alone. I am so appreciative of all of you guys. Today's video is going to be an update on my health journey, just in general, because y'all, these last few months, look, if anyone would have told me that the ending of 2024 going into 2025, I would be back talking about achalasia and going through testing and just uncertainty just in general about my health, I literally would not have believed you. The only reason I say that is because things were just going so well, just in general. I feel like for the most part, things were going fine. Ever since having my surgery back in 2018, things have been like so much better. I think it was because I was comparing things to like the way they were before my diagnosis, which if you're not familiar with my health journey in general, I'm going to tag or I'll like put the link below of the other two videos that I talked about my health journey just like before the surgery and how things were then and how they are now. It's like difference, huge difference. So things have been fine and I'm like, life is I'm good. Like things are fine. Like I would forget that I even like had the diagnosis because if I did bring it up to someone, I'll be like, I promise you I'm good. Like things are fine. Because things have been and it's just kind of like these past few months have been like someone just took a big button and just like cranked it back to like it's like this is 2025 and they just cranked it like the little dial went back to 2018. I feel like I'm like back in this space, which is why I kind of got to this place where I'm like, how did I get back here? I feel like I'm in 2025, but I'm reliving some of the things that went through the 2018 that were just traumatic experiences and just things that were super uncomfortable. And it was a place that I was uncertain because I didn't even know what my diagnosis was at the time. And even when I was diagnosed, it was just kind of like trying to learn all the things that came with having achalasia. But to be at a place now where I have the knowledge, but it's a it's different. It's like it's a different uncertainty regarding it that I now have to like relearn with this new diagnosis, or they're trying to say that they think that it is. It's so crazy how it's different but it's kind of the same as far as like emotions. I'm going to share it all and just the journey, and it's been crazy but it's also been eye-opening. And it wasn't until after the fact, which is why I'm sitting down now. I feel like anytime I make these videos it's always like after the fact, because just to be completely honest, when you're in it you don't want to talk about it. It's like, look, I'm just trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I ain't trying to talk about nothing. Let me just get through this. And then even when you get through it, or you're like even somewhere at the end, is still trying to process. You have to take that time to process what just happened. Like, what was that? Like, what did you do, God? Because that I don't see where you were in that at all. Just to be honest, it takes that time and you reprocess and really think and say, "Ooh, okay, there you were. Okay, actually, dang, you were there the whole time." It just didn't feel like it because it was just so much of emotions happening at that time. Okay, I feel like I just said a lot. Let's just start from the beginning and really just break this down of how everything came to where it is now. So this all started back in, I want to say it was like August, September 2024. I feel like that was around the time it started. So I had went to get my wisdom teeth taken out. Like I have been hearing for years since I was in high school. I remember the dentist saying like, "Hey, whenever I would go to the dentist, he would say, "Hey, just a heads up, like I think those you probably can get those wisdom teeth taken out, but it's not like it's not urgent, but just whenever you have the time, or if you have like some, there's going to be a time in your schedule you have some downtime, go ahead and schedule just to get them taken out." So it'd been years of hearing that. And I was like, whatever. And in between that time, I had had like a couple times where it felt kind of like, oh, this hurts. But then when I would go to like actually go to schedule it, it would get better. And I'm like, okay, never mind. I don't need it. So I finally decided I was going to get them taken out. The day of the procedure, there's sometimes they'll have you come up and do a consultation and then you'll do the procedure. But they told me I could do mine on the same day. So I could just come get the consultation before and then right afterwards go ahead and get the procedure. I decided to do that because I didn't want to have to take off multiple days of work. So I went in on the day, had the consultation. The anesthesiologist comes in and he started asking me a couple questions. And I threw in there and I was like, oh, yeah, and I have achalasia too. No, like, no big deal. I'm totally fine. And he goes, like, you have what? And so I explained it to him, but I was like, I got diagnosed back in 2018. I promise you it's like no big deal. Haven't had any like issues. So it should be fine. So he walks out, comes back later, and he sits down and he goes, we can't do the procedure. And I'm like, what? And he goes, um it's just too many risk involved, like with what you have, like there's a risk of aspiration. So if there was something you, because technically before you get it done they tell you not to stop eating, like I think at like midnight or something the day before. He was saying, you like, even though you stopped eating before, if there was anything that didn't get fully digested due to the achalasia, it could aspirate. And then if something goes wrong, then I could get in trouble. And then it has to, like, I don't know if it had to do with his license taken away, but he was just saying this could come back on me badly if something goes wrong because I knew that you had this ahead of time. And I'm like, but I promise you it's no big deal. Like, it's fine. And he was like, I know you're saying that, but I just can't do it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So my job, y'all, I am frustrated. I'm mad because I had already planned to get this done and have some downtime. So I had taken some days off of work. And I was like, are you kidding me? So when I tell you, I was like, I need to talk to you. Like, I wanted to talk to whoever was above him. And they came in and they were like, yeah, if he says that he can't do it, we can go through with it, but you just can't have, if you do get it done, it just will be without anesthesia, like anesthesia. And I was like, ooh, mm-mm, mm-mm. If I'm having that type of pain, I need to put to sleep. So I was like, no, I just am so frustrated. I don't understand. And so they came in with this sheet of paper and they were like, go to your doctor, have them sign off on it and say that it's fine and cool, we'll just reschedule it and you'll be fine. So I'm just so frustrated. So I take the paper, I go home, can't have it done. So I schedule a appointment with the gastroenterologist at Duke Hospital. To be honest, at that time, I had not really gone to see the doctor since my procedure. Like after my procedure back in 2018, I had like a couple follow ups after for like maybe a year or so. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I don't need to keep going, even though you're technically supposed to continue to see the doctor yearly just for follow up. Like the last ones that I had, it was just kind of routine. And I was like, I don't need to keep going. So I actually have not been to the doctor since maybe like 2019 or like 2020. And so I just was like, okay, whatever. I'll just find a gastroenterologist here in North Carolina because I'm not in New York anymore. Found one at Duke, made the appointment, went to go see her, and I literally gave her the full download of my whole journey. I gave her the full download from 2018 to now, and she was asking, like, have you had any issues? And I'm like, a couple here and there, but nothing compared to how it was back in 2018. So I'm pretty sure it's fine, like no big deal. She said, well, every 3 years you're supposed to get some testing done just to check up on things. I think it's about time. How about we go ahead and retest you again for everything that you've, like all the testing I had done back in 2018 that I told you guys about before, which was the barium swallow test, the manometry. Y'all know I hate that. The barium swallow test, the manometry, and the endoscopy. And she said, let's just get all those done and we'll keep them on files. And you can send us the files you have from Mount Sinai, which is where I went in New York. And we'll keep everything on file here. So I'm like, oh my God. So once again, I'm frustrated because I'm like, how did this all happen? Like, I just came, all you had one job. All you had to do was sign off on this sheet and tell them that I was fine so I can go get my wisdom teeth taken out. Like, is why do we have to go through all this? But I was just like, fine, I'll do it. Long story short, how about just in between, I went to another dentist because I was so frustrated about all this. I went to a different dentist and to have them do it instead so I didn't have to go through all this process. And how about they told me I didn't even need to get it done? Well, the dentist told me that if I like at my age to get them out, it's more of a risk of like different nerves or something. So it's so crazy now that I'm looking back at it. I feel like all this happened just to get me to go to the doctor and get all the testing done and just find out what was going on. Because in the end, when I went to get a second opinion about my wisdom teeth, they said, "Oh, you don't need to get it done." But it's just crazy how God worked that out. Because if the anesthesiologist hadn't denied me getting that procedure done, I would not have gone to find a gastroenterologist here. I would not have gone through the testing. But that was the first light bulb moment of like, wow, maybe I'm supposed to get this testing done and just see what happens. Fast forward, December comes, I get the first test done, which is the barium swallow test, and everything is, from what I hear, everything's fine. But there wasn't any openings for me to get the endoscopy and the manometry until February of the next year, of this year. So I got the barium swallow test done, pretty sure everything was fine with that. And so I had to wait months to get the other one done. But when I got the endoscopy and the manometry, y'all, okay. First of all, if you've watched my first video that I had talked about when it came to getting the manometry done, you will know I've had traumatic experience in the past getting it done. Anyone that has gotten that procedure done or just testing in general, it is so uncomfortable. In the past, when I got it done, literally I had to get it done twice. The first time they had to cancel because the nurse ran out and I project projectile vomited and I was bleeding. It was just crazy. It was just a crazy freak testing. And then I had to come back another time and then they had another nurse come and they were apologizing about everything. And it was still just really bad. So the day I had to get the manometry testing done, I was just like I tried to do a vlog of this whole process, and that day I was so nervous and just like on edge that I completely forgot to record it. So there's no recording of it. Um, but the day that I went to get the manometry done, y'all, I go to get it done, and the woman is, first of all, the last time I got it done at Mount Sinai, it was two different people. It was a person who reads the screen and does all the to like measure, because basically a manometry is when they have this cord, they stick it through your nose down your throat, and it measures the muscles in your esophagus and how you swallow. So you get different liquids and you have to swallow them, and it measures the strength of how you're able to swallow it and if it's any issues. So last time I had it done, it was a person who was at the computer measuring, and then there was also a nurse who was with me that helped, because they'll give you a cup and they'll say, okay, drink. It's different consistencies you have to drink. So they'll say, okay, drink this. I think it was like Gatorade, water, and I think it was something else that was like a little bit thicker. So they'll give it to you. I noticed my first red flag was that it wasn't any assistance. It was just the one person doing everything. She was like, I'm going to be doing the testing and handing you the cup and all that stuff. And I was like, like last time, it was a nurse helping me because, and I told her, I was like, if I seem jumpy, it's just because I've had a traumatic past with this. And to be honest, I'm really nervous right now. And she was just like, so I'm trying to tell her about what happened before. Before I could even finish the whole thing, she cut me off and was like, you can't have that mindset. And she said, if you come in and you have a mindset that you're fearful and you're scared and you're already thinking about what happened before, then you're already going to psych yourself out and you're going to be nervous and you're not going to be relaxed. And it's going to be hard to do this test. So she said, before we even start, I need you to forget about everything that happened before and just clear your mind and just like prepare for today, like be in this moment. Which I was like, you know what? Yeah, she's right. Like, let me just forget about everything before so I can just be present in this moment and relax, because you really need to be relaxed for that test. Even though it's hard, it's been meant to be relaxed. Y'all, I relax or try to. And so I'm like, okay, this woman, she's gonna be good. And I'm already kind of praying in my head, like, God, please give me peace. Like, I don't want to freak out, because there's just, you have to be, the test is kind of long, and I didn't realize that this time I had to lay down in different positions where I don't remember having to do all that before. Um, and anytime anyone that has achalasia knows that when you lay down in like a supine position or like on your back, it's really uncomfortable drinking or eating things that way. You're not really supposed to, because it just it's just really uncomfortable. So she tells me to lay back and says, okay, I'm going to start giving you liquids to drink. And I'm like, wait, while I'm like laying on my back, like that's, and in my mind, I'm like, why would she say to do that? And she said, yeah, we have to measure it from different angles. So you're going to be laying back, you're going to be up, you're going to kind of like do different things. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh God, I already know this is going to be like kind of uncomfortable. So as soon as she starts to put it in, she goes, take a deep inhale, which y'all, the last time I got this done, they did it in small increments. They would say inhale and they would press it down. Then they would say take an inhale and they would press it down. Y'all, this woman said inhale and she stuck the whole thing. Yeah, all I know is that I didn't realize I had a reflex that as soon as she stuck it down, she put it through the nose so fast that I grabbed her and freaked her out. And the thing is, I didn't even realize I did it. It was literally a reflex. And I think it was like, I literally wanted to jack this woman up. Like, what are you doing? And so when she did it, I grabbed her. And so she has this in my going through the nose down the throat. And she's literally like, why are you grabbing me? You can't grab me. And it's like, I didn't realize. And so I let it go. And I'm trying to, and she goes, you have to calm down and you need to breathe. And so I'm like, and so she's like going, putting the whole long stringy thing. And I'm trying to breathe. And then I literally in this mind, I'm trying to listening and I remember just praying and I was like, God, tell me what to do. You got to tell me what to do. And he was like, what was the last thing that the nurse before? Because the last nurse I had when I had this done, I swear I feel like she was an angel. And I was like, oh, God, I remember that woman. She was like an angel. What did she tell me to do? And I remember she told me to close my eyes and just breathe. So I'm trying to do the breaths that the woman said to do before. But the woman who's doing the thing, she goes, why are you breathing like that? Why are you doing that? And so, mind you, at this point, she has it all, the whole instrument thingy down my throat. And she's trying to talk and ask me these questions out of frustration, saying all these things. She's saying, like, why are you doing this? That's not right. You need to relax. You need to do this. And all I know is I'm like, either I'm going to yank this out of my nose and run out, or I need to just calm down. And she just needs to stop yelling because she wasn't yelling, but it felt like a yell at that moment because my emotions were all over the place. And I'm really, really uncomfortable and low key in pain. And so the only thing I can imagine is literally that she's saying all these things to me here, and I literally would not look at her. I'm like looking ahead, and then I will close my eyes. And have you ever been so mad that you start crying? And it's not like you're sad, it's like you're just mad that somebody got you to that point. And this nurse, like her frustration of me not being relaxed in a during a test that's so uncomfortable and that I have a traumatic past with, just frustrated me so much that I didn't realize my eyes were welling up. And so when I literally zoned her out and like closed my eyes, soon as I closed my eyes, y'all, all I felt was just like it literally was like as soon as I closed it, it felt like someone turned on a faucet and just all these tears start streaming down my face. And it's like I couldn't even stop. I didn't even want to wipe my face. I literally just was like, breathe, breathe. I had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden the room got quiet. And she just said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And she just kept saying, I'm sorry. And I just kept ignoring her. And I just was like, breathe, breathe. Because if I don't breathe, I'm going to yank this out and run. And so I'm just breathing. And she just starts the test and starts telling me to drink different things. And you have to drink it, but you have to also not swallow. She'll say drink, and then you have to be still. But it's something about when somebody tells you don't do something that your body involuntarily wants to do it. And so all this saliva just builds up in your mouth and it makes you want to swallow. And anytime you swallow, she has to start all over again. And it makes the test even longer. Y'all, I just kept doing it wrong. I was freaking out. I kept swallowing. And then at one point, she was like, you're messing this up. She said, every time you swallow, I have to keep coming and starting over. And she said, how about this? Just take your tongue out. So basically, she basically made me stick my tongue out so that it wouldn't make me involuntarily swallow, and it just made it even worse. And then I'm just, mind you, all the time she's doing all this, I would not look at her. My eyes were closed and there was just literally tears streaming down my face. And I'm literally trying to I'm breathing, I'm literally doing a breath work thing in my head. It was just crazy. Long story short, I finally finished. And at the end, and I tell y'all, it probably looked like I got electrocuted or something. Cause like, even when she finished the test, I literally was like this. And she's talking to me and she was like, "Well, I'm sorry, but you just, your reaction was just very," and I would not talk to her. Anything she asked me about, I just would not respond. So for the rest of the test, until the time that I walked out, I did not say a word to her. Poor thing. I didn't say a word. She opened up the door and told me that the exit was that way, and I just walked out. I went to the front desk and I was like, I need to check out. And the woman was at her had her head up and she goes, "So what was the," and then she like was like, "Okay," and she like puts and she goes, I guess she remembered what my name was. She was like, "Okay, you're good to go." And I don't even know what my face looked y'all like, y'all, but just the reaction of the front desk when she looked up at me, because I can only imagine. I didn't even wipe my face. It was probably dried up tears on my face. And I probably still had that like deer in headlight stare. But she just was like, you can go," and I just walked out. And then the person who was walking in the door behind me, they were just like, and they opened up the door and just let me go through. Traumatized. All I know is that I truly believe that whoever has the job of giving people a manometry, I feel like it should be a requirement that they have to get it done themselves just so they know what it feels like and just so they can have compassion for the people, like a new level of compassion for the people that they give that test to. Because there's no reason that in two different states I get that test done and they're both crazy traumatic experiences. Like, it's just crazy. It reminds me of like when a police, when a police, if you go through police training, they make you get pepper sprayed in your eye so you know what it feels like to pepper spray somebody else. And so they can know. I always thought they did that just so they can have, like, they don't just be walking around spraying everybody and they know what it feels like to get done what they're going to do to somebody else. I truly believe that whoever, I'm putting this PSA out there needs to be a mandatory manometry test for the people who their job is to give manometries to other people. It just it just has to be. I truly believe that if they made that a requirement, they would have so much more compassion, or they would do that job so much different. Lord, I feel like I could just give you an essay on that test just in general, but we got to keep moving on because there's so much more to the story. All right, so fast forward. I now had to get an endoscopy done since I knew that I was going to have to get the majority of my testing done in February. I thought it would be a bright idea to schedule them all on the same week. So I had the manometry on a Wednesday, and then that Friday I went in for the endoscopy. So, mind you, I was still traumatized from that Wednesday test with the manometry, and then I had to go back right the day after that to get the endoscopy done. Even though I was still feeling like, oh, kind of jittery, went to get the endoscopy done. And if you've ever had an endoscopy done, which I've had a couple done before, that day it just like, I don't know if my emotions were still on a high from the manometry, but when I was in the pre-op room, there's these different, it was just a lot happening, but there was different doctors that kept coming in one after the other. So there was the anesthesiologist that comes in, he tells you all the risks, he hands you a laptop, they'll hand you the laptop and they're like, okay, sign this. And everything is happening fast. They're like, oh, this could happen, but it's a very rare, sign this. And I'm like, oh, hold up. This is all happening too fast. So I'm like, give me the laptop. I will read through it and then I will sign. And so there's another doctor. It's like they're lined up and they're like, what's taking her so long? And he's like, she wants to sign, she wants to read the contract. And then the other doctor was like, oh, well, she's one of the few people that actually does read it. And I'm like, yeah, y'all need to calm down. Like, if you're going to tell people all the risk that's going to happen with this procedure, even though I've had it before and nothing happened. Look, people, FYI, do not sign anything without reading it. I don't care if someone's pushing you and saying that this needs to get done. Do not sign any contract without reading. Lord. So I think I was frustrated too that I felt like I was being rushed, and I don't like to rush without when any type of contract has to come, whether it's money involved or not. Read the contract. But yes, so I finally read through, signed it, handed it to him. And then the next person that came in, it was the doctor. He goes, so yeah, I'm gonna be doing the procedure. You've already had it done a couple. I'm sure you've had them done before. He was like, oh, I think the doctor told you that your lower sphincter is a little bit tight. So he's like, when I put the camera down, I'm gonna look down there, and if it looks like anything's kind of too tight, I'm just gonna cut it open. No big deal. Skirt. Like, go back. If you don't know, an endoscopy is a procedure where there's a camera that goes down your throat into your esophagus, and you can go down into the stomach, and they just look around. They can do any like type of procedure while they're down there, but it's basically a camera. So this procedure was just them going down with the camera to look around, take pictures, see how everything is going in the esophagus, and make sure everything's okay. I don't know, when he came in and he's like, oh yeah, if there's anything wrong, I may just go down there and cut it open and it's fine. No big deal. And I said, wait, but if you cut it open, then that's like a whole different procedure. And I was like, and there's risk involved with that. Cause I remember from in the past them saying if they ever had to go down and cut it, that you'll probably have more acid reflux afterwards, just in general, because it's just wide open. And I said, isn't that correct? That means I will have more like that's a risk of like more acid reflux. And he was like, yeah, but most people don't care if that's the issue. They just want to have it open. I said, but I care, and I don't want you to go down there and just tell me that that's something you're going to do. You're not even asking me if that's okay. And he was like, well, we can come up with another game plan of what to do if I go in and I see that. And it just so happened to be a picture on the wall that had a picture of like a person's esophagus and like all the things that like the inside. So he was like, so what, let's come up with a game plan right now. Y'all, mind you, this is right before I'm in the pre-op room. This is before I'm getting ready to go in and they're doing the IV and all that stuff. And you're now trying to say, let's go come up with a plan of what you're gonna do when I go into this. Like, y'all should have had this already talked about. Like this, I think I was just so frustrated that he was like, okay, well, how about if I go in and I don't see it? He was like, I'll just do a balloon dilation. Which a balloon dilation is what they put a balloon in and they like press it and it basically forces it open. He was like, how about I do that instead of cutting it? And he was like, we'll see how things go. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go back in. We'll talk about it and then I'll go back in and cut it. I said, that works fine for me. He was like, okay, that's fine. And so I'm like, but imagine if I hadn't stood up and actually said something. You're basically telling me that you're going to cut a muscle open and you're not even asking me if that's okay. So when he said that, I was already kind of like feeling some kind of way about it because I'm like, I literally have to advocate for myself for you not to cut, like, and you do the balloon instead. So when he leaves, I'm getting ready to. They put the EKG little things on and all that, and they tell me that that he's getting ready. He's finishing up. The person doing mine, he just went in with someone else, and then I'm next. Y'all, I'm sitting there and I'm laying on the bed, and so I just had a quick little like prayer time when I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna get ready to go do this endoscopy. No big deal. Y'all, I've had a good amount of endoscopies done in my life. Like, not just in general, I've had a good amount of them done. Whenever I go in, it's not that big of a deal. I'm so used to it at this point. But it was something about this one that just was so different. I think it was because I had like of beforehand when the doctor was saying all these things, he was saying that he was going to do something that I didn't know about. And I was like, and when he was saying instead he would do the balloon dilation, I don't know why that freaked me out. And then I was sitting there and I was like, I just heard God so clearly say, I'm gonna be with you. And I said, okay, but can you let me know that if there's everything's gonna be fine, like nothing's bad gonna happen. And for some reason I felt like he wouldn't say that. He was just kind of like, if something does go wrong, I'm just gonna be with you. And I was like, wait, what do you mean if something goes wrong? Like, is something gonna go wrong with this procedure? And the crazy thing is, the night before, I had a dream that something was going to go wrong. And I just flicked it off like no big deal. And so when I'm in the pre op room and I'm praying, and I feel like God keeps saying, if something goes wrong, it's okay. I'm going to be with you. Y'all, I freaked. I was like, what do you mean? No, I need you to tell me that nothing's going to go wrong and that you're going to be with me and that nothing's going to go wrong. And he just kept saying, I will be with you. Don't freak out. I'm going to be with you. And y'all, my right before the nurse had finished my IV and walked out, you know, if you're on a bed and they have those little side thingies that come up, I don't know why, the bars. All I know is that my mom had came with me that day and she was in the waiting room, and I was like, oh God, I'm freaking out. Let me just call my mom or figure this out. I try to get up to get my phone because it was in my purse on the like on the other side of the room. And I realized that the bar thing is in the way. So I'm trying to get it, push it to come down so I can get off the bed, and it's locked and I can't get it to unlock. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just climb over. But the cords from the EKG and all that stuff is up under the bar. So each time I try to get up, it's pushing up against the bar. So I can't get up. Y'all, I end up having a little mild panic attack because I'm literally like, okay, I'm freaking out. I'm like, something's gonna go wrong. I feel it. I had a dream about it. Something's going wrong. I just feel like somehow something's gonna go wrong. So I can't get to the phone, and I realize the only way I can get over there is if I take off everything and climb over. And I'm like, you know what? If I take off everything, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just gonna leave. And so I was like, oh my God, am I going to take this all off? And I was like, I think I am. I don't want to do this anymore. Before I could start taking it off, a nurse walks past, and the first thought in my head is call her and ask her to get it out the purse for you. So I don't even know who this woman was. I literally just called her over and I was like, excuse me. And I like yell. She comes in, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, can you get my purse? I said, I need my phone. And she was like, are you, and she's looking around like, who's supposed to be helping her? She was like, I think you're getting ready to go on a procedure. And I was like, I need my phone. And so she just was like, so she starts putting hand sanitizer on her hand. I'm like, if you don't get over here and get my phone, because I'm just freaking. And I'm like, I literally want to just take off all these cords and just run. Literally, I feel like that was my response to a lot of things throughout all these testing. I feel like it was just so many moments where I looked like I just wanted to rip off stuff and run. And that was just another one. And she puts the hand sanitizer and she was like, where's your purse? And I was like, it's right there. I said, the phone is at the top. Just grab it. I just need it. And so she grabs it, hands it to me, and I was like, thank you. And I'm like going to my phone. And she was like, let me know if you need anything else. And I'm literally ignoring her because I'm like trying not to start crying. And so she walks out, but she leaves the curtain thing kind of open, and she sits at a desk across, and she just kind of sitting there. And I feel like she just wanted to keep an eye on me. So I call my mom, and she's in the waiting room, and she answers, and she's like, as soon as she answers, she's like, are you supposed to be on the phone? And I'm like, something's bad's gonna happen. I just feel it. Something's gonna happen, and I don't know what to do. I think I got to get out of here. And she was like, oh my God, that's so crazy you're saying this. She was like, I was reading out. She had brought a book to read while I was going through the procedure because since I was going to be going under, you can't drive afterwards. So she was there to be there to pick me up and like drive afterwards. And so she says I was reading a book, and she said the Holy Spirit just told me to pray, like to stop what I was doing is praying. And she said, as soon as I said amen from the prayer, you just called. And she was like, what's going on? I was like, Ma, something's gonna happen. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. I had a dream last night that something was gonna go wrong with this procedure. And I said, the doctor's saying something about he was gonna plan to do something else that we hadn't even talked about. And I don't know. I just keep feeling like something's gonna go wrong. And so she prayed. She was like, just try to calm down. I'm pretty sure everything may be fine, but either way, I'm just gonna pray the whole time I'm out here. So I'm like, cool. I hang up the phone. Literally, I'm still waiting. So I literally just I opened up my Bible app, and I'm doing a reading plan like the Bible in a year. I was supposed to finish it last year, but I didn't finish the full year. So basically, I'm gonna overlap from last year because I missed some days. And when I opened it up, I was like, what was the reading for today? I was like, I'll just read because I just need to get my mind off of it. And I ended up get at the time I was reading the story of Joseph. And so I'm like, I literally just need a word. I'm like, God, just give me a word or some type of like, but all I know is when I opened it up, I don't even remember what scripture book, whatever. All I know is that it was Joseph. It was a story of Joseph. So I'm reading about the story of Joseph. And I think at that time, it was around the time that he was in the prison. And yes, it was. And it was talking about the dream of the baker and the cupbearer. And I'm reading about those dreams, and I'm like just trying to like all I know is I feel like I'm just feel trying to fish for a word out of this that's going to give me peace. And the thing is, what I noticed is that I was fishing to find some type of word of peace, but he'd already given me a word before that he was going to be with me. And so when I read the scripture and I was like, okay, yes, it's great, it's inspirational. We all know the story of Joseph and when he interprets the dream for the cupbearer and um, and the baker, and he's telling them, once you get out, remember me, type thing. And so I'm like, oh, and I remember after that, they didn't remember him at first, but later on they remember it. I'm like, maybe that's the word. And the thing is, God was like, no, the word was what I told you before you even read all this, that I'm going to be with you, which with Joseph, when he was going through all those things, just in general, I feel like it at the time, it didn't seem like God was with him, but he was with him the whole time. Which I, now that I look back, there probably was the word, but in the moment I was just fishing for something immediate. I wasn't looking at the bigger picture, you know. But afterwards I felt a little bit more peace. But I went into the procedure, and something, FYI, something did go wrong, but it wasn't huge. I ended up aspirating, which is crazy now that I think about it. That was the whole reason I was going through all this. They told me to stop eating at midnight the night before, but around like 9 o'clock, I had some blueberries before I went to bed. And during the procedure, I had aspirated blue, or they were going down to put the camera, and they couldn't go because it was blueberries in the way. It didn't fully digest, and that was from 9 o'clock the night before. And so they had to do a, oh my gosh, what is it called? Basically, they had to suction it out. They had to like stop the procedure, put a vacuum thingy, and like suction out all of the I forgot the specific term for it, but basically they had to like vacuum it out before they could actually go back in, because it was blocking them from being able to go in and actually do the whole testing. So they did that, and then they were able to do the whole testing, finished it, all that. So they came to me afterwards when I finally woke up, and he said, hey, we did have a few complications. He was like, did you have any blueberries? And I was like, oh, yeah, I had some the night before around 9 o'clock. And he was like, yeah, unfortunately, they didn't already all digest. So we had to vacuum them out before we can keep going. And then he said, but when we were doing the test, he was like, the weirdest thing happened. He said, I have a feeling that, he said first that my esophagus was like massively dilated. And he said, I'm starting to see signs of end stage. And so I remember when he said it, he said, I think it may be in the end stages. And at the time, my mom was in the room, and she was like, oh, that's great. But I remember vividly his face was just like, yeah, well, we'll talk more about it later. He walked out, and I was like, well, if he said end stage, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it's the end of it all. And I think that's what my mom had like, I think that's what she assumed it was going to be. But I just remember his facial expression. It wasn't like a, yeah, it was just like a, let's talk about it. So I remember that stood out to me. So when he walked out, I was like, I need to Google what that is, because I have a feeling whatever it is, it isn't good, because his face didn't look like it. But at the time, I completely forgot about it. Fast forward, I Google a few days later what it is, and it's not good. It's basically like when your esophagus just is no longer. It's like the worst stage of achalasia. It's basically it's more of a risk for it to be in your body. That at that point, it's more of a risk for it to be in your body than an asset. And basically, usually when someone gets to end stage, that's when they have to have everything removed. Okay, so fast forward, I've had all the testing done. I remember from one of the testing that the doctor mentioned something about end stage achalasia, and I Googled it, and it wasn't too good, but I knew that I had to have a follow up with my doctor that had put all this together to go over all the results. And so I think that was like 2 weeks after the last test. I went to go meet with her. We sat down, and she said, okay, it looks like we have a bit of a problem. She said that based on the testing, the test results were kind of like, I guess the best word is inconclusive, or they like canceled each other out. So basically, two of the tests said that everything was fine, like, or basically it still showed achalasia, but it showed that, like, as far as everything was fine. And then one of the tests, which was the manometry, that one showed that the lower part of my esophagus was completely closed, but it contradicted the pictures from the endoscopy, because literally there was visual pictures when he took the camera down that showed that it was open, but the manometry had, it basically said that there was no way, like the testing showed that there was no way it could have been open, and that is like there's no way that could open, is completely closed, and that it has no activity, and that it's just, it correlated with what the endoscopy person had said later on, he was like, I feel like overall this may be end stage. And so she said the manometry results are showing that basically you're at end stage, but the other results and what I can visually see is saying that you're fine. And she was like, I'm at a place right now where I don't exactly know, because they're canceling each other out. Like there's no way that this can visually say that it's open, but this says that it's closed. And it'd be right. And so she said, I have an idea of what I want to do, but I don't know if that's fully going to be the best thing. And she said, I have to go to a conference in a couple of weeks with some surgeons and some colleagues or whatever. But I know a lot of them were specialists for gastroenterologists and different disorders. She was like, I have a plan. I'm going to present your case at this conference to these surgeons and talk and figure out what the next steps are going to be. And so she said, after that, after the conference, when she presents the case, she's going to sit down with them, and then they're going to talk about what they think should happen next. And then she wanted me to meet with her again after that to talk about what to do after that. And she was probably going to have me meet with some of her colleagues too, which were some of the surgeons from that conference, to talk to them too. She was like, basically kind of like put a pin in it really quick, and she was like, I'll get back to you in a couple weeks after I present it to them. Fast forward 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks or so, she ends up calling me. So mind you, during the time of her having that meeting and saying she doesn't fully know what to do next, and that there's a possibility that it's end stage, which, if you don't know, whenever someone's at end stage achalasia, basically the only thing to do at that point is to have your full esophagus removed. And it's called a esophagus. I don't know, it's a long word. But basically, it's when you have your esophagus removed and they put a makeshift esophagus in the place that helps to actually digest the food. Because if you have end stage achalasia, it means that number one, the esophagus is massively dilated. And it's so dilated to the point that when you eat food, like it's basically, imagine taking a balloon, stretching it out like stretching it out so much it gets stretched out to the point that there's like little ridges. If you eat something and it doesn't fully digest, it could get kind of stuck in those little stretched out pockets, which, if it hangs out in those pockets and it doesn't fully digest, it can aspirate and go to other places in your body that it shouldn't be in. So it becomes more of a risk of food collecting in those little pockets and starting to aspirate to other areas in your body. And then you get sick, and then it's just not good. So basically, it's more of a risk for you to have that in your body than to it's more of a risk for you to have it than to have it taken out. And then when they do take it out, then you have to have a makeshift thing put in, and then you have to basically relearn how to eat with this makeshift esophagus kind of thing. So they were saying that, number one, they were saying it was massively dilated, and they felt like the bottom of my esophagus sphincter was like closed, or it was super tight. And they felt like during my surgery, they probably, when they were doing the fundoplication at the end, that they did it too tight. So during from the time that she told me, like, hey, I don't know what to do, let me present this case and get back to you after the case and talk and tell you what the plan we come up with, y'all. Talk about trying to trust the Lord. Because it's like you have these 2 weeks that the enemy is trying to throw all these ideas in your head of, oh my God, what if it's the end stage? What will happen if you have to get it taken out? So I started researching, like, okay, what if this is this? Then what are the type of steps that go? I found a support group on Instagram of different people that have had this procedure done, and they have talked about, like, some of them, it's my heart goes out to them, and I couldn't even imagine. It's the recovery is anywhere from like 6 months to a year. There's some people that were like, hey, I just hit the year mark after my surgery, and I'm just starting to feel normal. I'm just starting to eat solid food. Some of them have, like, or they eat from a tube for a while, and some people they're from the tube for a while and then they go to solid food. So everybody's body's different, which reminds me of the surgery I had before when I had the Helen myotomy. It was people that were reaching out to me afterwards, saying, hey, how did you get to eat so fast afterwards? I had to like stick with liquids for a while. And I'm like, everybody's body's different. So it's kind of like you can't really gauge for you, which this reminds me so much of right before I got the Heller-myotomy, I remember having all this anxiety because I was like, what if I'm one of the people that take a while to get to the point where they can have soft or solid foods? Or what if the cards are like really crazy? Or it's just all these things that come in your mind. So it was kind of like it felt like I was back at that 2018 right before trying to figure out what the diagnosis was and what were the different things that could come from it. And it's like you do all these research, which is good to know, but it's also sometimes it can be a good thing to know things, and sometimes it could be a bad thing when you know too much. Because then you start to create all these scenarios in your head of what it could be and what your life may look like if that's the direction that you end up having to go in. So it was, those 2 weeks were hard. But once I finally got the phone call and we sat down, she basically said that she presented the case, they came up with a plan. And so it's a 3-step plan. The first one is that I would get an Botox injections, which is basically get an endoscopy and then they inject Botox into the muscle of the lower part of the esophagus to get it to relax. And then they'll monitor the progress and see how it goes. If there isn't any progress, then step 2 is to basically redo my original surgery, which was a Heller-myotomy, and basically loosen the wrap that they put around because they basically wrap the bottom of your esophagus with your stomach. And they said, we're going to go in and loosen the wrap and see if that helps. And then if that doesn't work, then the last step is to have it removed. Because they basically are saying we don't want to jump and remove it if there are steps before that could help to make it better. So it's kind of like we don't want to jump ship. Like there's a possibility that's what it is, but we need to be able to rule it out with these 2 procedures beforehand. So, yeah, just to hear that there is a possibility that I could have my full esophagus like removed is just like mind blowing. But it just taught me so much. Well, not in the moment. In the moment, it didn't teach me anything. I think I was just kind of like, what? It was kind of like a freak out moment. But I was like, you know what, God, thank God that they didn't say, hey, this is the first line of defense. There's 2 different things that's going on ahead of time to just see what happens. And Holy Spirit, if you move, either way, I feel like God is going to be in it. Whether I end up having to get the full thing, my full esophagus removed, or if I just have the Botox injections and it's fine. So since then, I have had my first step done. I had the Botox injections like 2 weeks ago, actually 2 or 3. It's been about 2.5 through. It's been about 2 weeks now since I have had it done, and it's been going good so far. I have a appointment in a couple of weeks to go see the one of the surgeons from the conference. I'm going to meet with him, and he's going over all the steps of what basically he's going over the end steps of if I have to get the full esophagus removed. So while recording this, my video ran out and I was literally just yapping away and I did not realize that it cut off. So I'm going to hope that I get everything. I don't remember the exact point that it cut off, but I wanted to keep going. These past few months, I've been a roller coaster of emotions, even though I can say I'm like, you would think that since I've gone through all this before back in 2018, that I would be more prepared and that it wouldn't be as bad. And it's like, well, Christian, you've already gone through this. You like, wouldn't you already know that this coming? It wouldn't be that big of a deal. No, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Even though it's similar testing that's been happening, it's just been different in how I, f- I feel like it's been different in how God has shown up. Before, I feel like he was just this blanket of just love and hugs and trying to help me through it, even though my emotions all over the place. This time I feel like he was with me, but it wasn't as like the same amount of like closeness, if that makes sense. He's not to say he wasn't with me, but I feel like the best way I can describe it is when you're a parent and you have a child. When you have a child, then you are holding their hands, you're making sure they're super close. You're, if something goes wrong that you know they're uncomfortable with, you saying all these loving words and giving them hugs and kisses and making sure that they're like comfortable. But when they get older or just in general, I feel like you will do things to help them make them feel comfortable, but it may not be that super huggy and love and kisses and all this stuff. I feel like that's the best way I can describe it. I know that he's been there, but it hasn't been the same. Even when I'm like, okay, give me a loving word so I can feel I'm with you. It's like, that's all you need to know. And it's like, no, but I remember before you were just more like giving this love and compassion. It just felt like a blanket of you being with me. And I feel like he's like, but do you still trust me, even if it's not that same level of super love and care? Like if you just know my presence is there, that's all you need. You don't have to have someone that's giving you super loving kisses the whole entire time and giving you all these super encouraging words. Like, you've seen me do it before. You know that I can do it. Do you trust? If all I gotta say is I'm with you, are you able to still move forward and believe that I'm gonna show up in the same way I did when I was giving you all these loving kisses and encouraging words, you know? And so I think that's been the challenge of just accepting that it's still him. It feels different, but he's an unchanging God. He's literally his, as far as like his character and what he's able to do, his promises have never changed. He never removed himself. He just is, it's just not the same capacity as it was before. And I think that's been kind of hard to kind of like grasp. And I think that is a key in being able to truly trust God in every season, is knowing that He's always going to be with us in every season. It may look different in each season, but it's still God. It may, some seasons He may be there super loving, hugging, and giving you super encouraging words. And some seasons He may just say, I'm here. I just need you to trust that I'm here. I just need you to know I'm going to give you this word just enough for you to get to the next day, and that should be enough, you know? But are you still going to trust him in all those seasons when it's like a season that it feels like, oh my gosh, he's like right beside me and he's hugging me, and the season that it doesn't feel like that, you know? And even the seasons where things are going good and it's like, oh, life is good and nothing's ever going to go wrong. Or not to say nothing's ever going to go wrong, but it's like you feel like you're past that. And then it's like you have to revisit it. It feels like you're revisiting it, and it feels like it's a harder level, you know, or it's like before I was going through it and it was just this surgery that I didn't know how things were going to end, but I was researching about the Helen myotomy and just hearing different people's stories. Some people had good stories of them having speedy recoveries and some people didn't. And one thing I've noticed about achalasia, everybody is different. Everybody responds different. So it's a fear of, is my surgery going to have a good response? Is it not? Now I'm in a stage where it's like, oh, there's a possibility this end stage and you could have your esophagus removed if if we get to that point. And I'm researching, and there's some people that they're literally relearning to eat, and they're being fed from a tube for a couple weeks and then they go to solid food. Some people are being fed from a tube for months. It's some people that literally at their 1 year mark, they're like, I'm finally eating soft foods. I'm finally feeling like I'm somewhat relearning this whole food journey. That is crazy. I mean, not crazy. I don't want to call that crazy. That is hard to accept. That's hard to imagine for yourself if you have to go through that. And it's like, even though it's the same overall arching health issue just in general, it's just, it's different and it's like a different level. And it's like, oh my God, but I feel like he's calling me to trust him the same way I did before, seeing how his character was, seeing what he did, seeing how he came through for me before in the same season. And also, not even just a trust in not having to have it done, but just believing that regardless of whether I have to get it done or not, that he's still in it, and that he still no matter what, he still is going to work out for my good. I think when we read Romans 8:28, we believe that God is working things out for my, literally Romans 8:28, one of my favorite scriptures, but I hear a lot of people say it just in general, like he's working things all out. He's working things for the good of those who love him, of those that are called according to his purpose. When we think of that, we think that it means that it's going to be the way that we planned it was going to be. So it's kind of like, if it's this certain outcome, then it worked for my good. But if that outcome doesn't look the way that I think it should look like, then it probably wasn't, that it didn't work out for my good. The enemy did something wrong and he did. No, it's trusting that regardless of whether it looks like the way I plan it to be in my head or the way that I'm thinking it should, we don't know what God's plan is. We don't know how God uses each and every one of us. So it's trusting regardless that God, you're still good. If I have to have that surgery, if I don't have to have that surgery, I believe that regardless, you are going to be with me. I know that at the beginning of this, you all said, I'm going to be with you. In the other surgery, you said, I'm going to be with you. There's nothing to worry about. I have everything taken care of. And it's like this, you just said, I'm with you. That's all I got to work with. But it's still trusting that that's all I need because I know your character and I know that you're a good, good God and that you've never let me down before. Y'all. So my phone first ran out of storage and I didn't realize it and had to re-record. And then my phone died and I didn't realize it while I was going and I had to re-record again. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. So I hope that this helped. This is not only for those that are going with achalasia. If you're wondering about how to trust God in seasons where it has to do with finances, whether it has to do with a job uncertainty, whether it has to do with marriage, kids, I don't know, just anything in general. I hope that this spoke to you and that the overarching theme of it is to trust God and first trust God, but the trust comes from understanding and really understanding his character, looking back, writing down all the things that he's done for you before, and reminding yourself of those things, not only in the bad seasons, but also in the good seasons too. Each time that you remind yourself of his character in those good seasons when the highs are going, it literally is kind of like building up an armor. So when those times do come, anytime the enemy tries to come for your mind, because that's the first place he tries to go for to try to like create doubt and worry and fear, you already have that armor up and you already know his character, you know his promises, and those things don't try to, they're not able to penetrate the way that they were before. One of my favorite sayings that I say to my Pilates classes whenever I'm teaching is, it never gets easier, you just get stronger. And I feel like that really is, it applies to this as well. Anytime that you things are going good or when you have those bad seasons, it never gets easier, but you just get stronger in your knowledge of the word. You get stronger in your knowledge of his character and his promises in general. So when those things come, you're able to withstand them more than how you may have withstood them before. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a while. Um, and this first video back was kind of long, but I just wanted to like update you guys on health and everything that's been going on just in general with me. There are going to be more videos to come. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I look forward to chatting with you more soon. Bye, y'all.